The sun reaches its zenith over Guadalcanal, the humid air trembling with the roar of engines and the rattle of guns. Below, the dense jungle conceals tiny villages and winding rivers, but above, the sky has become a battlefield, unlike any the Japanese pilots have faced. The laughter and arrogance that greeted the American Hellcats hours ago has vanished, replaced by fear and chaos. Lieutenant Ichiro Nakagawa, once confident and calculating, now wrestles with his controls. Smoke trails from the damaged wing of his Zero, and the throttle groans under stress as he struggles to maintain altitude. Around him, squad mates are in disarray, some spiraling toward the ocean, others retreating north with frantic maneuvers that expose them to deadly American fire. Every evasive roll, every desperate dive is countered with precision. Smith rolls his Hellcat over a plummeting Vero, the sunlight glinting off his polished canopy. Tracers streak past, and the enemy pilot's eyes widen in disbelief. What they dismissed as a slow, heavy fighter is now the apex predator of the skies. The F6F's speed in dives, its sturdiness under fire, and its 6.50 caliber guns combine to create a weapon that cannot be underestimated. Below, smoke from flaming aircraft drifts lazily over the canopy, while wreckage twinkles in sunlight when it breaks through the jungle. The rhythmic roar of the Hellcat engines fills the sky as the Americans methodically hunt the remaining Zeros. Pilots like Flight Officer Bobby Hayes weave and roll, coordinating attacks with the precision of a dance, yet each movement carries the weight of life and death. In one spine-chilling sequence, a squadron of Zeros attempts a counterattack. They dive as a group, banking hard, aiming to strike the American formation. But the F6Fs meet them with disciplined firepower. Engines flare, wings rip apart, and one by one, the Japanese aircraft falter. The air is filled with black smoke, spinning silhouettes, and the cries of pilots communicating frantic warnings. A silence falls for a moment, an eerie pause amid the chaos. The Japanese pilots who survive hover at the edge of the battlefield, forced into desperate retreats. Arrogance has turned to horror, confidence to panic, and laughter to disbelief. They had mocked the Hellcat, certain of victory. Now they realize that their world in the skies has irrevocably changed. Smith glances over his wing, the formation moving in seamless precision. Victory is within reach, but the day is far from over. The Japanese pilots retreat, battered and stunned, leaving behind a sky littered with the remnants of arrogance turned to disaster. And somewhere in the swirling smoke and chaos, a single thought grips every remaining enemy pilot. They could never have imagined this level of firepower and skill from what they once called a slow, heavy American fighter. The battle is turning, and Guadalcanal will never look the same again. By late afternoon, the skies above Guadalcanal are eerily quiet. Smoke rises from scattered wreckage, engines lie silent, and the echoes of tracer fire fade into the distance. The once arrogant Japanese pilots who had mocked the new American fighter just hours ago are either retreating toward distant islands or counting the cost of their losses. You can almost feel the weight of exhaustion and disbelief in every cockpit, the kind of disbelief that only comes from witnessing a predator far beyond expectations. Lieutenant Commander John Smith banks his Hellcat, scanning the horizon. Around him, squad mates fly in tight formation, some glancing at damaged aircraft, others with scorched paint and dented wings. Yet the sense of victory is tempered with the knowledge of what could have happened if coordination had failed, if the F6Fs had faltered. Every maneuver, every shot fired had been precise, but every pilot knows war is fragile and survival is never guaranteed. On the ground, Allied officers at Henderson Field record the day's outcome. Intelligence reports list dozens of Zeros destroyed, their pilots either downed or fleeing in disarray. These numbers tell one story, but the real impact is psychological. The myth of Japanese air superiority over the Solomons has been shattered. Word will travel fast. Arrogance turned to fear in the skies. Meanwhile, the Japanese command scrambles to understand the devastation. Pilots whisper of machines too strong, guns too deadly, tactics too precise. Reports and after-action reviews struggle to reconcile the laughter they felt in the morning with the horror that defined the afternoon. Guadalcanal has become a turning point, an undeniable demonstration that the F6F is a game-changer in the Pacific theater. For the American pilots, there's a sense of grim satisfaction. They know the enemy's respect has been earned through skill, courage, and the reliability of the F6F. They've not only defended the island, but have reshaped the balance of power above the Solomons. And yet, even in victory, there's tension. Smoke still drifts from wrecked Zeros, the day is not without loss, and the Pacific War rages on. The events over Guadalcanal that day would echo through the rest of the conflict, teaching a simple, brutal lesson. Never underestimate the underestimated, and never dismiss the seemingly slow or cumbersome fighter. It may very well decide the fate of battles to come. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows over the jungle canopy. The F6Fs return to base, engines rumbling, pilots weary but resolved. The Japanese, humbled and shaken, retreat for now, but they will never forget the day the Hellcat shattered their Zeros. August 7, 1942. The sun rises over the Solomon Islands, spilling gold across the emerald canopy of Guadalcanal. Below, the jungle thrums with life. Birds scatter, leaves rustle in the humid morning air. But above, the sky is about to erupt. You can almost feel the tension in the clouds, thick and charged, as American pilots climb in their F6F Hellcats from Henderson Field, engines roaring, propellers slicing the warm air. Lieutenant Commander John "Jack" Smith peers over the edge of his cockpit, scanning the horizon. Across the Pacific, seasoned Japanese Zero aces, fast, agile, and confident, are already in formation. Their silhouettes gleam in the morning sun, a dozen sleek, deadly machines, each piloted by men trained to dominate the skies. To them, these new American fighters are laughable, clunky, heavy, and slow compared to the nimble Zeros they've shredded before. Below the pilots, the islands stretch endlessly, jungle and beaches, rivers twisting like veins through the dense green. The wind presses against the canopy, carrying faint scents of salt and smoke from distant skirmishes. Smith checks his gauges, feeling the subtle vibration of the Hellcat's powerful engine beneath him. He knows the aircraft is underestimated. The Japanese laugh at its weight, at its bulk, at its reputation, but that is exactly the advantage he will exploit. The Zeros swoop in with a confident, almost arrogant precision, their pilots exchanging smug signals. They faced American planes before, they know the drill. But these Hellcats are different, sturdy, armed with 6.50 caliber Browning machine guns, faster in dives, harder to stall, stronger in the fight than anything the Japanese expect. "Stay sharp," Smith mutters over the comms. Around him, wings tilt, engines scream, and the first clouds of smoke from distant strafing runs drift toward the sun. You can almost feel the electric tension. Every pilot knows this day could end in victory or death. Suddenly, a Zero breaks formation, banking sharply to intercept. Its pilot grins with overconfidence, sure of an easy kill. But the Hellcat responds with precision and speed, matching every maneuver, its guns ready, the first tracers streaking toward the unsuspecting enemy. The calm of the morning is shattered in an instant. The battle is about to begin, and what the Japanese dismiss as a slow, heavy fighter is about to become their worst nightmare. Arrogance will meet reality. The sun climbs higher, glinting off metal wings as the first volleys of fire split the air. Lieutenant Commander John Smith tightens his grip on the controls, eyes scanning for tracer fire. A Zero swoops in from the left, banking sharply, expecting an effortless kill. Its pilot smirks, already picturing the victory report. But the Hellcat responds instantly, its heavy frame surprisingly nimble, slicing through the sky with a speed that belies its size. 6.50 caliber Browning guns roar to life, tracers streaking toward the Japanese fighter, sparks illuminating the canopy. The pilot jerks, startled, the bullets tearing across his fuselage, ripping control cables and sending smoke curling into the morning. He spins, desperate to evade, but the Hellcat is relentless. Every maneuver, every dive, every roll is anticipated and countered. Around him, other Zeros dive and climb, trying to gain altitude, trying to outmaneuver what they had mocked just moments before. But the F6F's superior acceleration in dives and its rugged armor make every attack risky. One by one, the Japanese formation begins to falter, wings clipped, engines smoking, pilots shouting over the radio as chaos spreads. The precision and firepower of the Hellcats turn arrogance into panic in seconds. Lieutenant Hiroshi Takada, a seasoned Zero ace, watches in disbelief as his comrades tumble from the sky. The aircraft he once dismissed as slow and heavy tears through formations with terrifying efficiency. His hands tighten on the controls, but panic is creeping in. Every evasive maneuver he executes is met by the Hellcat's steady advance, its pilot calm, focused, almost machine-like in execution. Smoke and tracer fire fill the sky, a deadly ballet of metal and flame. Below, the jungles of Guadalcanal stretch endlessly, reflecting the chaos above. You can almost feel the heat and the adrenaline, the fear, the disbelief, the sheer shock of Japanese pilots realizing that they have underestimated the Americans' newest fighter. One by one, Zeros are hit, engines flare, wings tear, pilots eject or spiral uncontrollably. The tide has shifted. The morning that began with laughter and dismissal now explodes into horror and desperation. What was meant to be an easy sortie has become a fight for survival. And as the first few Zeros spiral toward the ocean, smoke trailing behind them, a grim realization spreads through the remaining Japanese pilots. The Hellcat is no ordinary fighter, it is a predator, and the hunters are about to become the hunted. The sky above Guadalcanal is alive with roaring engines, tracer streaks, and the cries of pilots. And in that chaotic ballet, the balance of power has irreversibly shifted. By mid-morning, the skies over Guadalcanal are a storm of motion, smoke trails, spinning aircraft, tracer fire streaking like deadly threads through the clouds. Lieutenant Commander John Smith banks sharply, the Hellcat's wings slicing through sunlight and mist as he dives toward a group of Zeros attempting to regroup. Each aircraft reacts with precision, yet the Americans' firepower and coordination begin to tell a lethal story. Flight Officer Robert Bobby Hayes spots a Zero closing in on a wingman. "I've got him," he shouts over the roar of the engine. The 50 caliber guns rattle, metal tearing through the fuselage. The enemy aircraft shudders violently, smoke curling from the engine cowling, and the pilot jerks, trying to regain control. Another tracer streaks past, igniting a small fire on the wingtip. Within seconds, the fighter spirals out of control, crashing into the jungle canopy below. Meanwhile, Japanese ace Lieutenant Ichiro Nakagawa dives to intercept a Hellcat attacking his rear formation. He rolls sharply, trying to gain the advantage, but the Hellcat responds with uncanny stability. The engine growls, guns ripping into the Zero's fuselage. Ichiro's eyes widen. The aircraft he once mocked is now a machine of unstoppable precision. Smoke trails from his plane, and he is forced into a desperate evasive climb. Below, the ocean sparkles deceptively, a calm mirror contrasting the chaos above. Pilots on both sides sweat under helmets, faces streaked with grime and salt spray. Every maneuver carries life or death stakes. You can almost feel the vibrations of the engines, the tension in the controls, the pounding of hearts, synchronized with the machine's roar. As the dogfight escalates, a cluster of Zeros break formation entirely, panicking, some diving uncontrollably toward the sea, others fleeing north toward the mountains. The Americans, disciplined and coordinated, exploit every error, their confidence growing with each success. Amid the chaos, Smith glances at his squadron. Each pilot moves like a single organism, their machines extensions of their bodies. They fire with a deadly rhythm, exploit gaps in formation, and never overcommit. The enemy, once arrogant and laughing, is now in full retreat, forced into evasive maneuvers they never imagined. The air is thick with smoke and tracer fire, the roar of engines mingling with the occasional distant crash. The Japanese pilots realize in a chilling instant that the Hellcat F6F is not just another fighter, it is a revolution in the skies, and today, Guadalcanal will remember it. But the battle is not over. Even as panic spreads through the Japanese formations, a few seasoned aces are plotting counterattacks. The next moments will test courage, skill, and the limits of man and machine.